And I just want to say good afternoon. I can finally say good afternoon, not good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Leadership Now series, where we bring great leaders, role models, and mentors who have something to teach us. And today we have an extremely special lineup with our first panelist. And before we actually get into this, just housekeeping items. So we're live on Facebook, and we have quite a few people here on the webinar. We like to make this interactive, so feel free to chat it up. If you have questions specifically for the panelists, if you would jot the questions down in the Q&A, and we will answer those as time allows. On Facebook Live, if you're watching, if you have questions, Eric McGrath is fielding those, so he'll make sure that he gets those questions for us as well. So before, like I said, I am so excited about the speaker lineup. Today we have Sam Nicholson, we have Tiffany Shimmick, and we have Karl Pomeroy. You know, we all went through such a crazy time of 2020. And all these people are like, oh, 2020 is behind us, and now we can jump onto 2021. Yet it's so important to really look at the lessons that we learned in 2020. So what worked, what didn't work, what did we learn? How are we shifting? And as we are looking at 2021, truly starting to open up in a different way, yet we have a whole nother set of problems. We aren't in a place where we've never done it before. We actually have things that we know have worked, and it is the opportunity to go, okay, so what are we doing? How are we evolving? There are people that we put out just knowing that you're going to be on here. We asked them for questions, so we handpicked a lot of questions for this panelist. And before we jump into our first one, actually, Sam, I'd love for you to just do a quick introduction of yourself, who you are, the company, where you're from.
Okay, happy to. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sam Nicholson. I run and the president of Grand Canyon Development Partners, which is corporately based out of Las Vegas. And we do primarily work in the Southwest, although we've done work all over the country and in Canada. And we're a development management firm, development and construction management that does commercial, large commercial, everything from large integrated hotel casinos to office space to food and beverage, retail, sports, entertainment, a variety of things. That's a bit about our firm. My background is predominantly construction. Early in my career, I worked in law enforcement. I also am the executive director for a nonprofit foundation that specifically geared towards benefiting teens. And that's a little bit about me.
Nice. Tiff, you're up.
Tiffany Shimmick, I'm the Chief People Officer here at Just Food for Dogs. We are a human grade whole food dog food company. So the same food you and I eat, we make it for pets. When you think about your own health and nutrition, it's the same thing for our four-legged babies, right? We want them to be healthy too. So been here a few years now, work with an amazing team here. And that's what we do. We do everything from recruiting to learning and development and people operations in my world here. My background is retail dog my entire life, fell into the people function. I was just telling Sam, I'm not your typical HR, but we, our goal in what we do and what I do for people is what we try to do is create an environment where within the four walls, they can be their best selves and do their best work. I am honored to be on this call with all of you today, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah. All right, Karl, you're up.
Absolutely. Karl Pomeroy, I'm the president and general manager of Modally. Modally is a prop technology company. We design and develop a business-to-business predominantly platform that is predominantly centered on the heating and air conditioning industry. We also do plumbing. Essentially what we're doing is linking contractors to nationally to large property owners. So take a situation where a company has 100 multifamily properties across the U.S., we would look to do a national program where we would provide all their services, where we would link contractors across North America. Modally is a wholly owned subsidiary of Daikin. And prior to the last 2 years at Modally, I was a division president for Goodman Manufacturing, running the western half of the U.S. And absolutely excited to be here and frankly learn from Sam, Tiffany, and the rest of you.
Nice, nice. Well, you know, when I was, as I was saying, as I was picking this panelist, I was looking at all the leaders that we know. And, you know, collectively, so knowing, I knew Sam, gosh, way back 15, 16 years ago. And Karl, I've known you for 10, 11 years. Tiffany, it's been about 7, 8. And interesting enough, you know, I look at all three of you from very different industries, and yet you have such similar beliefs and values. And we look at leaders, you know, there's leaders who lead, and there's leaders who are just leaders, who are more like, you know, tell them what to do. And I look at the three of you as people, as leaders who truly lead, right? You teach people how to lead. It's the leaders that not always lead from the front, but they lead from the back. It's the chicken winging that we talk the side to side. It's developing leaders who teach other people to lead, to help teach other people to lead. So it's never just about you. It's truly about your team. And knowing that you have to start somewhere, right? There's this foundational part of who you are and your belief to ever become the leaders that you are. So what I would love to know, and which I'm sure our viewers would love to know, is what is your playbook? So what is your playbook for success, your values, your philosophies? Karl, I'll start with you.
Sure. Well, great question. And I would say, for me, it all starts with the people. I think one of the things I've learned over the years is, you know, the most important thing I would talk to all of our leaders about is hire slowly and carefully. Ensure that when you bring someone to your team, they fit the culture and the formation of the team that you have. And if it takes 2 months to find the right person, it's going to be better than the quick thing to want to fill a job that ends up being the wrong person down the road. I would also say when you make a mistake, fix it fast. As difficult as that can be, because I think probably everybody, and I see a lot of the names that are on this call are people that I have a lot of respect for, that, you know, believe in their people and want to, you know, train, develop their people. But sometimes we make mistakes. And when we do, we need to address it quickly. And then from there, training. And frankly, I'll give a plug to you and Eric in the sense that our company, both when I was in my last role and this, utilizes the services of what you do to help train and develop leaders. I think we have a very core philosophy that's very similar. And so training and developing the folks, and then ultimately empowering and coaching. Those are really the things. I like to tell people around here, I don't want to really do much if I can avoid it. If I can get great people and I can be here to help coach and mentor, it's the perfect world for me. So that's how I would view it.
Well, and that's the Motley way, right? Run hard and fast. So why would you do it all?
And if you make a mistake in a decision, make another one fast.
And then own it. How about you, Tiff?
I love that Karl said that. I say very similar things. Now I know what you meant by putting us together here. You know, I always tell candidates, it's not only are they right for us, but are we right for them? And very candid, transparent, honest interviews make a difference. Like, you got to lay it all out on the table from the beginning. So I'm with you on hire right. And I am a fail forward. Everyone knows I say I fail forward with grace. But you know, as I was thinking through these questions, the playbook for me is it starts foundationally for changing the cycle. You've identified either personally or professionally something that needs to shift. You can sit back and wait for someone else to change it, but good luck. But you got to step in, start moving forward. But you know, you also asked us about our values, and I thought through those, as I always do every time Mary challenges us with this, right? Integrity, come to the table with a voice. A sense of urgency is so important, to the point of hiring, right? I always tell people I hire people and trust that they're going to do the job I hired them to do. I am the farthest thing from a micromanager. I don't want to micromanage, You're here for a purpose. Live that purpose. And recently in this year, and I know we're going to get into this going into this call, a lot of really reminding people that there's another perspective. There's always another perspective, and don't get so much tunnel vision that you lose sight of what the end game is. And then it all comes from a foundation of trust. Key to the whole thing.
Powerful. What about you, Sam?
Ours is, and boy, it's hard to follow that. Ours is very similar in that, we tend to measure our success by how successful we can make others. And it's success in our employees, it's success in our clients, our business partners, because the foundation really is, as you said, it's trust. And nothing can really evolve effectively and productively without that foundation. So ours is very simple, 4 core values, and everyone here has to fit those core values. We tend to kind of migrate towards our strategic business partners and our clients and those that we do business with, is they really need to fit those core values too, because I want our employees to get up in the morning and say, and look forward to going to work, look forward to the challenge, look forward to the opportunities, and not get up and go, oh, shoot, I got to go to work today. That just takes all the fun out of it. We wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't fun.
Well, and I look at all 3 of you and the companies that you run, and it really is, you have to have like-minded people. If your values aren't aligned within your team, you don't have the foundation of trust. It's so disjointed. So, you look at that and you go into 2020, all 3 of you are essential businesses. And, we're going through, and I know most of you were like, okay, 2020 is going to be the best year ever. We're growing in leaps and bounds. We have our strategic plan. And then boom, the country just gets shut down. And there's so much panic. And, and I think back to March, and the first time ever in history, every single person was in a place of, we don't know what to do. Every single person truly had to think outside the box. We had to be willing to shift and pivot. And you look at an essential business, you have to keep your doors open. And so you're truly forced with a whole nother set of dilemma. You have people being furloughed and other companies are being shut down. And yet you have this different demand that's being put on you. So when you look at 2020 and the way that your business changed, what was the most significant change that your company underwent in 2020? And do you feel that this is a short-term adjustment, or do you think this is a long-term direction? Karl, I'll let you answer that first.
It's a great question. I think first, in when you talk about COVID, it's kind of interesting. I heard so many people around New Year's talking about, glad 2020 is over, worst year ever. Not my philosophy. A lot of bad things happened in 2020, but from the get-go, and when we shut our offices down early, out of concern for the health and safety of our team. But we immediately had several conversations where we talked about not failing. Our fiscal year happens to start April 1. So we were a week into the fiscal year and shut the office down. And certainly there were concerns and fears, but the very first conversations we had as a leadership team were about not letting external forces affect our outcome. And the reality, we're somewhat fortunate in that the business we're in is technology driven, which in today's day and age helps, but we'll end up our fiscal year meeting or exceeding the goals. And I think a lot of that has to come from, and Tiffany said it so well earlier, it's about your attitude. If you go into it and say, we're going to fail this year, I certainly think we would have failed. We just didn't allow that thinking. So that's the thing I think is keeping that appropriate attitude.
Yeah. I was just going to say, same thing. My husband reminded me about a month ago that we were 277 days since it had started, and that was a bit ago. And that as an executive team, we had worked 81 days straight because March 13th was D-Day, and we started conversations every single day, 7 days a week, sometimes 2-3 times a day. Again, lucky to be deemed an essential business. However, being an essential business is hard work. It was complete chaos. But absolutely feel as if what it forced us to do was all the things we suffered from abundance for. And we said, oh, we'll put that off. Oh, we can do that later. Oh, we haven't gotten around to that. Man, it microscoped the areas that we were not doing well, the areas that we were doing well, the people who were our go-getters and could pick up, and run with the doing of getting this stuff done, and the folks who had been sitting back kind of watching it from afar. And it really forced us to look at the infrastructure. And I feel the same way. And, I'm sure half my team probably thinks I'm crazy, but I've been saying, I could not be prouder of how we have handled this. And did we make everybody happy? Is it very stressful? Is it a very fearful time? Absolutely. But this team has come together, and these will be things that absolutely take us forward. We will look at how we come together on projects, how we prioritize, what we allocate resources and energy towards, and what we don't, because it's just not priority. And our immediate thinking as well was, instead of achieving our mission for a period of months there, it was save the mission, whatever it takes to save the mission.
And from our side, it's interesting. We had our strategic planning session in January, and then realized quickly in March that that needed to completely be redone. We had our second one in the year, which we normally only do one a year, but we had our second one in April or May. I can't remember which month it was, and completely realigned our goals. We quickly learned that we had to pivot with the current environment, that we felt that as though we needed to add value to our clients, add our value to our employees first, certainly, but we used a lot of different methods. Technology, Karl, as you mentioned, was one of the things. We actually enhanced our technology division within our company to add more value to that for our clients. But what was interesting path for us is that we learned that it made our team stronger as a result of this, much more cohesive, and we're very much convinced that we're going to emerge out of this as a much stronger company.
So when you look at all the shifts and the pivots, do you still have people who come into the office? Do you have people who work remotely? Are you looking at continuing the blend? What is the biggest shift, and what do you see moving forward?
Well, I can go first on that one. We never did leave the office. We just made the office safer. And knock on wood, we've been very fortunate in terms of the health of our employees. We've had very little issues. Interestingly enough, when I went for my physical in May, I found out that I had COVID back in January, and nobody knew what the heck it was. And the thing is that we allow. It's difficult in our work and managing construction and managing people to really be effective working remotely in our business. So we made our office COVID compliant, so to speak. One of the things that we've implemented this year as part of a business sector of our firm is what we coined as pandemic resistant implementation. How do you remodel? How do you build construction to make it more pandemic resistant? And and we've got a team of people that are working just on that. And it includes a lot of technology, includes a lot of using, you know, a different mindset of thinking, and that is, wasn't the norm even 2 years ago. So as a result of that, we have people stationed out at project sites, in our office, pretty much everywhere. But we've done it in a way that it's kept them healthy, and so far we've been very fortunate.
Yeah, I'll say we, for retail teams, you know, everything CDC recommendation. We did curbside. E-commerce just went from this to this overnight. So, you know, we handled those situations, and we've kind of adapted. We also work with B2B partners. So it's been interesting to have our team members in a location that it's not our four walls. So we've had to work around their restrictions. The great thing about it, though, there's been open communication and real honesty from these large corporations. You know, we work with Petco, and Petco has been completely open to say, we don't have the answer either. Let's figure this out. And it's been a really good dialogue with a lot of autonomy, region to region, district to district, so that operational leaders could make the right choices for their business, which I think is great. For our home office, we did let everyone go home, and we have kind of deemed it their journey until we get through these spikes, until we get through, you know, what this is going to look like, vaccines. We've offered up the office is ready to go. It is compliant. I never knew as much about plexiglass and sanitizer ever in my life that I do now. And thermal imagers, who knew? Thought it was only for, like, you know, the military. We have all of it, but we're letting people make that choice. However, we have been very clear with our HQ staff that we will not be a Google or a Microsoft or a like work from home forever. When the world comes back to some sort of safety, and we can feel good about that, we will ask our HQ staff to come back, and we have had those conversations very transparently.
And I would say somewhat similarly, we've been a bit of a yo-yo. We actually have 3 offices. We have a New York office, a Colorado office, and then an office in Thailand. And for us, we have opened and closed those offices really as we've watched case count. So currently we actually have New York and Colorado closed. Probably will open in another week in both cases, because we've seen the spike after Christmas start to subside. We sort of go, when we see a spike, we send everybody home for a week or two. And then the office itself, we're basically 50% staff on any given day when we do come back. And we bring in different teams. We felt from the get-go, the sooner we could get back to a collaborative work environment, we needed to do that. I thought what Tiffany said about, you know, you see in the news about Microsoft and some of these other companies that have announced a permanent work from home. It's just not the philosophy our management team has come to agree with. We think collaboration is far too important in the business. And so we're going to find a balance long-term between allowing our team to spend some time at home. But I will also say that one of the learnings when we reopened the office was how many people wanted to come back to work. I would say far and away, the majority of our staff was chomping at the bit, because working at home is hard. I mean, I think one of the things a lot of us learned was, you know, we need social interaction, and we like it in the workspace, and you tend to lose your boundaries when you work at home. You know, 5 o'clock rolls by and you're just working till 8 o'clock at night. And so for us, we've just felt that getting back to some balance, but more of a normal work environment was important.
And who wants to do laundry all day long while you're trying to take a nap?
You can do lots of things on Zoom calls. Just be careful, right?
I will say to add to that, though, is that we've done our best to be flexible for those that have children. As you know, that it's tough for them trying to do homeschool and blah, 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 to be flexible to their needs. And so everyone's a little bit different. But I agree with Karl. A lot of people say, I can't be productive at home. It's tough for me. And I need that social interaction, and I need the sense of normalcy. So it's a little bit of mix of everything. It's just, you just got to be flexible.
Call it the new normal.
Yeah, if there's such a thing. I also, for going forward, as we figure out what that new normal is going to be, that flexibility is key. But it also is, I appreciate Karl, and we did the same thing as a leadership team. We sat in the room and we said, we're all going to align on this philosophy of who we are as a business. And we are a customer facing business, and we want to be there to support our customers. So what that is going to come down to, and it has in a couple instances, but reality for everybody on this call is that means some hard conversations. There will be some hard, very transparent conversations that have to be had with somebody who wants to move somewhere else, who wants to work from home permanently, who wants to work in an environment like that. And I think, early and often, as soon as you get the whiff of that, like, let's start having the dialogue now. It's only fair to them, and it only sets both of us up for success.
So do you think it'll ever go to like a hybrid model? So we have that thing going, and whatever happens, did you see also some production with people working at home, and then also some people working in the office? Because I've heard both sides. I've heard some people who are terrified to come back to the office because they have pre-existing conditions or their health. But then I've also heard that sometimes people use it as an excuse. So how do you manage that?
Well, I was going to say, from our perspective, I think we will certainly have a hybrid model going forward. And it's even, post-pandemic world normal, we will probably have our team in the office about 50% of the time. Some days we may have everybody in the long term just so we can really get collaboration. But I definitely think, and I don't think you're wrong, that some people probably work better in that environment. And I will say, during the pandemic, anybody that was in a compromised position from a health perspective, from our perspective, we immediately figured out how can we help them and allow them to do work from home. We're not going to bring somebody in the office, and I'm personally not going to be responsible for somebody getting sick and possibly dying or something else because they had to come to work.
Yeah, I also think it comes down to the remote. First of all, you have to just take the high road when it comes to how productive they are, what they're doing, if they're taking a conference call from shopping at Target or whatever, But I think it comes down to leadership. You have to be communicating with your managers that they're connecting with these people on a regular basis. And what I've said this whole time is performance expectations don't change during COVID or remote work. They're still there.
Did you have anything you wanted to add, Sam?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So, jumping in, actually looking at, someone had asked in regards to the team's health, right? So looking at the emotional health throughout all of this, and how do you continue, what do you do to measure the team's health?
Go ahead, Sam, you want to start?
Yeah, I don't mind starting that one off. We have seen some of that. And so that's important for us. Fortunately, we have an employee, from an HR, Tiffany, what do they call that? An employee program.
Employee assistance program, EAP?
An EAP, yes, thank you for that help. EAP program that allows them to seek some professional help in dealing with it. And we find it most that a lot of the employees are dealing with the challenges of how they deal with it in their personal life. Mm-hmm. In some cases, it's very difficult for them, especially if they've experienced a loss of a loved one, or they're dealing with children at home, and how do they manage, the stresses and cope with that, those additional responsibilities that they're having in their life. We're trying to manage their personal family and well-being of everyone that they care for. We've actually engaged a firm to do some professional coaching to help some of our executives with respect to some of those issues that they're dealing with as well that may involve some professional guidance. And we've stepped up our program from an executive level down to our employees of check-ins to make sure that we're talking to them frequently and offering them guidance, offering them suggestions, and if nothing else, just being able to understand the challenges that they're going through and what they want to share with us, so that we can put things in perspective. And that's been tremendously helpful, and I think it's contributed a lot to the fact that we've seen our team get stronger during this crisis, and really gel more as our work family, because we're all very close. So that's helped a lot, and that's a shift that we're likely not going to change back to what we used to do.
I agree exactly with Sam's points. I would highlight two things that I think we did that had a dramatic impact on our employees during the pandemic and still continue to. The first is an organization that one of our VPs had helped start called Modally Cares. It's essentially our charitable organization that sort of got its start as more of an internal local community doing some cleanups and things of that nature. But during the pandemic, through the donations of most of the employee team, we ended up providing well over 2,000 meals to frontline workers in both Bangkok, New York, and our local city of Denver. And I think that allowed all of us to put some of our attention external to helping people, which I think became very important for us. And then the more kind of fun one was, we had used to, technology companies oftentimes have a little irreverent spirit. So we used to have a lot of in-office socials on Friday afternoons, and we moved those to Zoom or Teams meetings, and we laughed. We had because our fiscal was March 31, we had a New Year's Eve party on March 31st. We had a ball drop. We had one where people came dressed as, crazy characters, and I felt like, from my perspective as the company's leader, so you'd see me in costume on a Friday and making fun of life, because in the end there was a lot of stress, and getting people to let go of that for a little bit just became an important element in our business.
Well, and you said a key, you have to have fun, right? There's so much chaos and stress. Yeah, it happened in 2020. It's still happening. And if we can breathe, if we can be present, if we can create some type of fun, and you all talked about trust, when your team knows that you care and you're willing to go and think way outside the box and create fun, still engagement, and it can be, virtually, it connects people. Yeah.
I was going to say, we're lucky enough to work with dogs all the time, so that kind of helps. Even though we kind of lose sight of that because it's our world all the time, but seeing pets and having them around. But I was going to shift it a little to, in my world, and I think everybody, this is what we deal with, but I know everybody heard this, and I want to share it because I think it's important to know that you're not alone in it and that it's everywhere out there. But we heard and are still hearing more of emotional breakdown, mental illness, anxiety, stress, fear, anger. And what we tried to do, or we have done, is open the door to tell us that, talk to us about it, use the employee assistance program, but come to us, come to your leaders. It's okay to use those words today. You go back years ago, and even a year or two ago, very few people would feel comfortable having a feeling like that and sharing it during a time like this. But we've been very open to say, we know that's what's going on. We know there's these things out there. Let's have a dialogue about it. Let's talk about it. And as leaders out there, don't be afraid of those conversations. Have them with 2 or 3 people if you have to. Use influencers in your company. use outside resources, but don't be afraid to have those conversations, because I would say, and my team would even know better than I would, but 98% of the time, if we opened that door, it wasn't as bad as they thought it was. And if we would have ignored it and not had it, it would have snowballed into something else. So we really opened up the dialogue door. And again, not easy conversations, but having that gave them that outlet.
So talking about opening up that door, it's so divisive right now. And this is a tough conversation, but everyone gets to have it because we see our country being so divided. We see teams divided, we see families divided, whether it's mask on or mask off, whether it's politics, whether it's the racial tensions. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that within your teams?
I'll say that it has had to be a bit of, basic conflict resolution almost sometimes, of you go, okay, is it values? Is it facts? What is it that's causing this? If it's politics, racial divide, the country is disjointed, personal connection to any of those things, ask questions, listen, identify as leaders. I remember a lot of conversations during, Black Lives Matter and companies making statements and should we or shouldn't we, and people impacted directly by that unrest. And it was, again, it's a thing that, you wish you weren't in it, but I'm super proud to look back on and think, if I reflect, there was so many conversations going on within our leadership team at all levels to reach out to somebody, to ask the question. If something was brought up from a grassroots level, how do we address it? Let's get in front of those employees. Let's have that dialogue. Let's talk to our customers, because our customers were reaching out on social media. So we had to address that as well. And again, I always go back to, did we do everything perfect? Was it right? I don't know. We'll never know, but we did our absolute best and we were transparent about it. And then personally for the teams, it really is just listen and ask questions and open up the door. And it comes with no repercussion to the conversation. When they know there's no repercussion to the conversation, it's just conversation, even sometimes without resolution. We just need that. We're all human. Even though we're in a working environment, we're all human.
Yeah, and I think from our perspective, and I think this is different for companies these days. We probably opened up more dialogue about some of the events that were happening, particularly some of whether it was the political unrest of the fall prior to the election or even the last week. And, normally, most companies will say, oh, we're not going to have any politics discussion at work. We're not going to have this. I actually, at the encouragement of some of our leaders last week, sent a note to the team and just said, look, it's okay to come and talk about it. We need to respect each other's values and views. We're not going to get, anxious and tension over it, but there's a lot of people that are stressed about the things that are going on. And, particularly when you're in a work from home environment, just ignoring it, I don't think it was the right answer for us. And I think a lot of our folks have been appreciative of that. We also did different things. Downtown Denver had a lot of riots. In our hometown in New York, they burned a park down through one of the riots, and we're helping rebuild the park. And we went out here in the local community in Denver and we picked up trash after, just things to facilitate helping realize that it's going to be okay and we're going to go forward was our approach.
Have you had to deal with that, Sam?
Well, we've been really fortunate here in that, and I want to go back. One of our core values is being respectful of others, and everybody here knows it's one of our core values, and it's being respectful of others and their points of view. People have been very, open and honest about how they feel about it, but not judgmental. We have very little tolerance here for people that are judgmental, and it's worked out well. Not had any conflict here that at least that I'm aware of as it relates to the current events and events of 2020. People certainly have their opinions on whether they wear a mask, whether they don't wear a mask, our policy in the office is you wear a mask. And if you want to come in, you got to wear it. That's the deal. And so they're very accepting of those things. And what they do in their personal life is completely their, it's their prerogative and up to them. And I'm very proud of our team and that they've maintained that professional atmosphere here, and we've literally had zero issues with anyone being out of line or unprofessional or judgmental in that respect.
So I have a question that came up. Do you believe it's a company's role to get involved in politics or to take an official stance?
My vote is no.
We'd vote no too.
We'd vote no too.
Is there a reason behind that?
Pandora's box.
I don't think it's the company's place. If individuals that are employed in the company want to have dialogue with fellow team members, as long as they're respectful. Now, if somebody came to work in our case and was making, statements that we deemed, unacceptable, or, we're not going to, we have a work environment here. We need to come to work, and that's what we're here to do. So I think our view is, while we want to certainly facilitate open dialogue and conversation, we're going to draw a line at some point around those things to ensure, because everybody's entitled their view is our viewpoint when they come to work. It's just what we say while we're here and how we do it. Because at the end of the day, what we have is a bunch of customers that we need to take care of, is kind of our outlook.
Yeah, our philosophy is if it's mission or industry focused, we have dialogue or we make a statement. World focused, country focused, again, the same thing Karl said. For us, it's let's have the dialogue internally as we need to, but we're not gonna start it if everybody has their own opinion of it.
And I would say, from our perspective, is we don't talk politics and we don't talk religion because everybody's entitled to their own views.
Yeah.
And I don't want anyone in this organization to feel uncomfortable because they may have a differing view than what management has. That is absolutely counter to our culture.
So going back into the way you changed business in 2020 and moving into 2021, what challenges are you still having? Or are you having challenges?
Guys, no challenges?
There's always challenges.
Yeah.
It's a new challenge every day. It's just how do you deal with those challenges? And the challenges are, it's continuing. It's contact tracing. It's making sure people are healthy. It's how do we continue to service our clients in a way that they expect and we can excel in our business. Because all of us here have competitors. All of us here have those strategic threats to our business that we have to be able to manage to. So it's something that we have to be aware of and sensitive to on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think, I think one of the biggest challenges right now is people are exhausted of COVID. I think for a lot of people, they thought if I just get through 2020, we're going to be fine. And the reality is January is not about a bit different than December was. And so, helping our team realize that some of it, we don't know, maybe this is our new norm, who knows? And if it is, we do have to live our lives. We do have to do the things, but we also have to do it safely. And so reiterating, I guess, Sam's point is exactly right. You don't have to wear a mask when you walk out of my building, but you will wear it in the building. And you will go into our app before you walk through the door and make sure you register that you took your temperature this morning and do those kind of things that we require. Because we are concerned about the health and safety of our employees. So that's one. And the other one is, for us, it's getting back to a more normal work environment and getting to, we're in the fourth quarter of our fiscal year. We have goals to achieve still, and we're going to do those things. And we're going to figure out how next year we grow the business. And that's our really big 2021 stuff.
I would say first and foremost, it's engagement. Even hearing some of the things that Sam and Karl have done, I love hearing that. Sometimes you get so in it that you lose sight of, those things. So I love hearing those things. Engagement continues to be an ongoing topic for us. But really, really myopically, it's staffing. We are a retail environment, and recruiting and hiring right now is, I would take it back to 2009. It's really tough to staff right now. And it again is because we've had people tell us, I make more at home on unemployment. I just want to stay home. We have people making the choice because they are concerned for their own health and wellness, or someone within their circle, and they're making that choice. It's really tough to staff. And then supply chain and logistics, everybody has heard it, right? Shipping and everything right now. That is a big challenge for us this year. And so the answers to those are, for staffing, we're talking about it constantly, of just all hands on deck. It's not just the recruiting team. It's not an outsourced, agency. It's all hands on deck, and really promoting and getting out there, and everybody understanding what value we add as a business. And for supply chain and logistics, we're thinking Grubhub, Postmates, buy online, pick up in store, buy online, ship from store. We've completely rethought our infrastructure to be able to get to our customers, because they still want to be home as well.
Yep. And one other thing I'll add of 2021 from my perspective, one of our leaders did an amazing thing right at the first of the year, and they sent a note out and talked about, we need to go into our calendars and we need to clean up meetings. Because we have gotten so accustomed to jumping from one Zoom meeting to the next Teams meeting to the next. Literally, you could go from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and just go from one meeting to the next. And so our leadership team, and I loved it, went through and everybody looked at every meeting in their calendar that they'd scheduled and said, do we need this meeting anymore? And all of a sudden, there's blocks of time reopened in calendars, so people can start to, instead of sitting in a meeting, they can stop and think about the strategic side of the business and where do we need to go. I loved when the team came up with that, literally on the 4th of January last week. It was great.
I'll add one to that I'll steal from Rusty Cochran, who's on this call. I attended a meeting at Rusty's business, and it started at like 10:37 or something like that. And I said, what's the deal with the 10:37? And one of his team members told me it's because you end a meeting at 10:30 and you start a meeting at 10:30. It makes no sense, right? You're either short in one or you're late to another. And that's a great philosophy. And I've thought that ever since I learned that from Rusty's team. So that's a great thing to add to. Yeah, prioritize your meetings and give yourself some thought time and some downtime.
Fantastic. So we found during the holidays that going along with the meetings is that usually, Christmas, New Year's was quiet. I had so much time that I could just catch up. And I found that more people wanted to actually book meetings and have calls. I was like, what are you doing? And looking at the whole shift. So there's positives and then there's negatives, right? And I find that people, they work and they work and they work and they work, and they don't have a shut off button, which happens to do with the meetings and boundaries. But I'm also finding that more people want Zoom. They don't want just the phone call. They actually want to see people. So how do you set boundaries? I'll ask you that, Sam. How do you set boundaries within your teams, within your meetings, within your time?
Well, yeah, Karl made a good point, is that the meetings are really need to be a necessity rather than a nice to have. And because you can live your life to death by meetings. So we've kind of had that philosophy for a while, is that if it's not necessary, or if there's not a purpose and outcome, don't have it. However, I will say that ours is a little different in that we're constantly having discussions with people about the tendency to send too many emails and to resolve a problem. And if you can't resolve a problem in 2 emails, pick up the phone and call them. We've not had the big issue. In fact, frankly, because I am not a huge proponent of video chat. I do like seeing people, and I'm very comfortable and actually would prefer to be face-to-face, but in these times you can't, it's just difficult to do that. It's the next best thing. It's because it's so much better when you can read a person's body language and determine if you're really making an impact, or if you're getting your point across. But we've not had that big an issue in that. I think for the most part, we do have some clients that tend to not be completely respectful of our time or our employees' time, which is okay. And sometimes it's just training them to get that, and it takes a little bit of time to get there, but we eventually get there. So for us, it's not been a topic of conversation that we felt needed immediate attention. We've been able to manage that pretty effectively so far.
There's a saying that we teach people how to treat us. And by setting boundaries, right? Or giving them the whys, it sets, and people get that. But if we don't set those boundaries and we let our team know, hey, just respond here and there, people begin to expect a response at 10, 11, 12.
So true. And and I've got a client out of New York, whether he's on this call or not, we've had this discussion, so I don't care. Is that it used to say, well, how come I can't reach you at night? And I would say, well, because when I get home and right before dinner, my phone gets plugged into the charger in the kitchen, and I don't pick it up again until I get up and go to work the next day. So unlike you, Mr. Client, I don't sleep with my phone under the pillow. And if it's an emergency, people know my home phone number, of which you are not kidding.
Funny.
So in regards to you as leaders and developing your team to lead as well and delegate and being that role model, what have you done to learn and grow yourself over the last year?
I guess from my perspective, I think one of the things that was afforded to us during COVID was more time to maybe pick up the phone and talk to people. So, when you get into the office and there's a lot of people in the office, one of the challenges is, and I'm not one to close my door unless it's awfully important. So people will come in and you have conversations, and I love to run the business that way, but it also got you from picking up the phone and calling somebody that you've known for 20 years and you may talk to a few times a year. I think it afforded some of that, which was really helpful. And ultimately, it's really talking to other business leaders. I talked to a number of, and particularly because a number of companies that we partner with have gone to a fairly pure work from home. And I've talked to a lot of CEOs about, they want to go back to work. What's been our experience? And we've asked them questions about how they've handled things. And it just really, it allows for, I think, just mentoring and coaching. It's no different than what you teach every day, Mary. I mean, it's build yourself a great group of people around you, and then, solicit their feedback and ask them for very open, honest conversation.
Yeah, I'll say, one of the things we dug into probably starting summer, when we kind of saw where we're at, and now we switched from saving the mission back to achieving the mission, is let's build the bench. Let's keep developing our people. Let's do, let's give them whatever we can give them right now. Virtual. We took our training classes that used to be on site, and we turned them into 3-day training sessions into 5-week webinar sessions, because you can't have somebody on a webinar for 8 hours a day. Took advantage of virtual leadership with you guys at Driven, which was phenomenal. And also, for me personally, my learning was, it was really about helping people through that adaptation period. Leadership training is not going to work if we're not face-to-face. It's not going to work if we can't do it this way. The training we always done, it has to be face-to-face. And what we finally got to was a little bit of, don't knock it till you try it. And no, it may not be exactly what it used to be, but I promise you, it won't totally suck. It'll be okay. And then obviously, once you get people over that hump, they go, oh, okay. And they start to work into their norm. For myself personally, a lot of reading, just understanding, trying to stay afoot of everything going on, and, you know, helping my people to, you know, because people were coming at us from every direction too. Oh, this website says this. Oh, this says this. Oh, this recommendation. So trying to just help with that. Also, you know, I picked the brains of a lot of our candidates. We did some leadership hiring, and I really reversed those interviews a lot with folks that I was interviewing for chief digital officers, chief marketing officers, lots of different positions, and just tried to understand what they were in, where they were coming from, how they had handled things. And I learned a lot through that process. And a very simple thing is, and if they're on this call, we started a very small book club. It's just a few of us. It's a John Maxwell book, but it really kind of gives us something to guide. And we kind of did it post the Driven Leadership virtual class, but it's kept us engaged in that learning, and some good dialogue. And sometimes we go a little off tangent, but that's okay. It keeps us connected.
You know, it's a powerful tip when you talk about don't knock it till you do it, right? It's all our biases and our presumptions going, well, this can't work. Well, what can we do? And great leaders start asking the question, all right, so what do we have? What can we do? And you do that. And as you said, you fail forward. You fail forward with grace. You go, well, you know, how do I pivot? That didn't work, but let's get back up. What did work and how do we continue? And it's amazing when we as leaders have that mindset about, well, what can we do? Well, let's just step in. Let's figure it out. And we figure it out as we grow.
You know, one of our values is to be scrappy, and there's a lot of areas we don't want to do that with, but we have definitely leaned into, let's just do this. You know what? Let's give this one a shot. Let's have this conversation. Let's do this meeting. Let's, you know, get other people involved. And even if it only happened one time, at least gave them a voice or some connection during that one time.
How about you, Sam?
Well, for me, it was a little different. We were extremely busy prior to COVID, to the point that it was a bit insane. We've been very fortunate. Year over year, we've had growth of 20 to 30% for the last several years. And when COVID hit, it reinforced something I already knew, but it taught me a valuable lesson in that I bring more value to this company by working on the business than working in the business. And as a result of this, so the good thing that came out of this and what I learned from this is that we've figured out a way to make ourselves stronger as a result of this. And when this does come out and we get back to the insane levels we were before, we'll be able to do it smarter and better and faster and with a better team than we had in February.
Well, and his wife also she has a whole training company. So Sam is always learning and growing, right?
Yeah, I learned a lot from her for sure. I have a high respect for the people in HR. So Tiffany, my hat's off to you. She helps us a lot to keep that in line. So her input is with, you know, with her HR and training company has been invaluable for us.
So I have a question here. What is your why and how does this fit into your leadership style?
Well, my why is, I talked about simply as this, is that I gauge my success by how many people I can make successful, not only in my business life, but in my personal life. We do a lot philanthropically. Our company donates their services every year to a nonprofit that is going through a growth or needs to do something that we can, as you know, professionals can help with. And we've done it for a variety of different nonprofit groups over the years. And this year we've selected an organization that is building a facility to get women and children off the streets that are trapped, that are victims of sex trafficking. So it's an organization at St. Jude's Ranch for Children in Boulder City, Arizona, Nevada. I'm sorry, and they've got 10 acres. They want to develop a campus in which they can get the women help, get them counseling. They have a place to stay that's safe, that's secure, so they can get them back into a normal life and get them out of that just terrible environment. But that, and plus everything, is that's what keeps us going. It's building those relationships, those strong relationships that we have with our business partners and with our clients. It's making sure that our people are successful, people in my life are successful, and that's my line.
Yeah, mine's somewhat similar, and I also find it interesting for how the why in your life over time may move and change. You know, at a much earlier point in my career, I would have said it was completely different. But the thing I get the most out of today is, and part of it is because the organization that I get the opportunity to lead today, being technology, has a lot of people that are earlier in their careers, let's say, and I just love to watch the development of people. I mean, for me, there's a certain sense of, it's the give back I have left in my career, is to know that I can help leave people in an organization in a better place than I inherited it. And so, you know, I love nothing more than just facilitating those conversations and that part. That really is for me anymore the thing that I think is just it gets me excited in the morning, and, you know, keeps me excited all day.
Yeah, I'll say it's as simple as change the cycle and enable others to do the same, and enable in the most positive way possible. That's what I mean by enable. I push people to their uncomfortable zone, and you know, Eric calls me the bull in the china shop. But I am so grateful for people who did that for me. And as I am now in, you know, this point in my career, and I reflect back and I think of the people, the managers that drove me crazy, the ones who I thought, oh, they don't know anything, right? But they pushed me to be better, better, better. And they saw things in me that I didn't see in myself. And I'm so grateful for that. And I just want to do that for others all the time, to challenge them to go, have you looked in the mirror today? Because you know what? You're a rock star and you didn't even know it. That's my why.
You know what I love about all three of you? It's about making results, not excuses. And it's truly about connecting to other people. There's something about being bigger, right? Playing bigger. It's never about us. It's not just about our team, but it's about community. And the bigger we play, the more it's like, I make results, not excuses. That's why you're here. That's why your companies are growing. That's why you're such respected leaders. So when you look at leading in 2021, with all the lessons that 2020 threw at us, what do you see? What do you believe is going to stay? What do you believe is going to change? How are you preparing for it?
I think safety first and foremost. You know, we have 3 pillars we stand on: team safety, food quality, because we produce food, and without the food, we don't exist. But team safety is always first and foremost in every decision that we make, every business conversation. That's not going to go away. You know, to Sam saying him realizing he had COVID back in January last year, I would probably say 40-50% of our team in January, February last year was out, and it probably was COVID, and we didn't even know it at the time. So wearing masks could be normal, you know, gloves, sanitizers, face masks, that kind of thing, even for just how we kind of move forward. People are going to realize that made a difference. And then I think for us, it is definitely about prioritizing what is really going to help us achieve our mission. Today we're feeding 100,000 pets nationwide our food. By next year, we want to be feeding 170,000 pets nationwide our food. And that's going to take prioritization and saying no. And we've learned to do that during COVID, that there was just a whole list of things that were going to get us through the year. And we had to say no to a lot of those and really focus on the dial movers. That will stay.
What Tiffany just said, she's going to be very busy in HR this year to grow that much. I would say from my perspective, as we look at, I'm going to be the first to tell you that I have no sense of what the crystal ball brings us this year. I think there are far too many, influences happening that are beyond all of our control to know. We were talking before the call started, and I was picking Sam's brain a little bit about commercial real estate, because I'm somewhat fascinated by where that's going because of hybrid models and things like that. And he had a great approach. He said, we're re-looking at it. We don't think that it's not a business that's going to continue. We just think it may be different. And I think that's the philosophy I'm going to enter 2021 with, is we're going to set an objective, and it's going to be aggressive. Our growth goal will be in the 30% range this year. And I don't know what we're going to run into as we go there, but I know we're going to make it, because we're going to fall back. We're going to refigure it out when something comes our way. And what we do here is we sell. And everybody in this company is essentially a salesperson. And if we go out and please our customers and present new opportunities, we think we'll win. And so that's how I view 2021. Is it may be more of the same, but it may be different, and we'll overcome.
I agree with both of you in that 2021, I don't think is going to be significantly different. I think it, hopefully, knock on wood, it will start to see some improvement. And for us, it's focusing on what's important, and it's people. People are our most important asset, just like in almost any business. And it's making sure that they stay safe. I mean, we're in the construction industry where accidents happen. And we want to make sure that everybody leaves home for work in the same condition that they came to work in. That they feel safe and secure in that environment. And that's important for us. We've made it pretty clear that people are our best asset, and I want to make sure that everyone is secure in not only their position, but in their life. And we can give them as much support as we can in that endeavor.
It reminds me, I had asked Tiffany, what do you think more than ever people need for 2021? And she said it was security and stability. Safety, security, and stability. And with all the chaos, with all the change, people are just like, oh, can we just be stable right now? And we don't know, but it's having a vision. It's still not knowing what the future holds, but yet you have to do. And one of my favorite sayings is, this is day one. When you focus on what you can do today, and then tomorrow takes care of itself, and tomorrow takes care of itself. I have a question. So did you increase or decrease your marketing budgets? And if so, why?
We increased and really went hard in social, and also leveraged influencers in our world. That's a way that works for us. So it increased, well, actually, I should say we shifted dollars to get a better leverage for a return for our investment. Considering a lot of people were home on social media, a whole lot more, if you can believe that, right? But that seemed to work really well for us. And then also with education, because we rely heavily on evidence-based research and our veterinarians, and we put our veterinarians even more vet-centric than we were before. So really honing in on what our industry is and what we stand for as a mission, and we just stood proud on that.
Well, I won't be able to fib about this one because my marketing guy's on. We actually ended up cutting some of our budget. We wanted to be more aggressive in pricing and some of those approaches, so we made some tweaks. So Karil was a real team player in helping with that. But some of it was easy to do as well. We used to do a lot of trade shows as an example. Well, we didn't buy into the virtual trade show quite candidly in the early days. So we kind of laid back and really took a lot of our trade show budget, utilized some of those funds differently, certainly put a lot of the efforts more into, similar to what Tiffany said, more of the online. We rebuilt a website during the pandemic. We built a new, so we call it a direct supply site where clients can purchase online easier. Those are the types of things that I think we felt were important. So some of it was redirecting, but in the end, we definitely saw a savings out of ours.
So you're going to get all three versions. And from our perspective, we didn't really make any noticeable change at all. However, I would agree with a couple of them. We did shift our tactics and our strategy slightly differently on how we spent it, because of the fact that we couldn't meet face to face. We couldn't do the and we're, because we're headquartered in Las Vegas. Vegas is like the convention capital of the world practically, and so that died. So we ended up taking it and spinning a little different direction in terms of how we did. But in our business, our marketing is not like you would if you were in retail or food and beverage or whatever. That type of marketing doesn't work for us. Ours has to be very targeted and very strategic. So we continued that, just slightly in a different way.
Well, to Carl's point of the savings as well, one of the things we would do with our veterinarians and vet clinics, animal hospitals, is we would do doctor dinners or lunch and learns. So we would go somewhere like Vegas, we would invite in people in the area, we would take them to a restaurant. Well, we shifted that to an online dinner and sent them $100 Grubhub cards where they could order in their own dinner, but still be online having dinner with us. And that was a significant savings. And the return on that was probably 200%. I mean, we were getting 200, 400 people wanting to come to these events when before you got maybe 40 people in a room. I mean, it was amazing because it was more convenient for them as well.
Sure. Well, they get a free dinner out of it.
Great solution.
And they got a dinner out of it. A few dinners, Grubhub, $100. That's a lot of dinners. But getting creative with that and reallocating your funds to where, and the good news is if you have the flexibility to be able to do that, you can do it for 30 days and see how it works. And then you could try something else. So adaptability in that and really thinking differently and networking those conversations helped our marketing team a lot.
Yeah, we would definitely describe it as test and learn. We did a lot of test and learn this year.
Yeah.
Sure.
So adversity develops character. Adversity creates creativity. Again, it all depends on how we look at it. So you as an individual, you as a leader, what was developed in you in 2020 that it just took you to the next level?
Whenever she asks questions like that, I always want her to ask my team that question. Don't ask me that. Ask my team.
So if our team's on, you can just put it in the chat.
Oh, no. Careful, guys. I think for me, I already knew this about myself. I'm a very visual learner. I am, so I really have struggled, I'll be honest, with not seeing my team face to face, not being able to be in a room and have the dialogue, not to whiteboard things out. That's how I learn. So God bless, like my director of learning and development, she's tolerated me through all of this, where her and I used to sit on in a room with paper in front of us and do training and mark stuff up and get things put together. And, the team has, I think what the team has done is we've supported each other through learning how we all worked best through this and respecting that and kind of taking the extra effort. We've spent a lot of time on DISC this year with Mary for our teams to understand the values, motivators, how we communicate, how we learn. And it has given us pause. So now as we continue into 2021, it really is think about how the best way to go about having this communication and this dialogue is. So for myself personally, recognizing more clear than it had ever been what a weakness or, how I was going to struggle with this, and then just asking my team to help support me through it. And they've been great at it.
I will say for us, it's been really having to rethink those things that were successful in the past that required a face-to-face meeting, and how do we overcome that. We're big on training our employees, and it's not in our business, and real estate development and construction, it's not just technical training. How do you develop a development schedule, or how do you do an estimate, or those types of things. But because 70% of what we do, like a lot of businesses, we interact with other people. It's training them on those people skills. How do you manage conflict? How do you create a win-win situation? How do you be assertive without looking like you're aggressive, or all those things that are going to put tools in their tool bag that are going to make them more successful. And we've really creatively had to come up with some ways on how to continue to train those things through this time without putting them at a health risk. And that's been challenging. It took us a while to kind of refine it. Karl, said it right. You do something, and you figure out a way to do it a little better next time, and a little better the next time, and you'll learn from experience. That's what we've been going through for the past few months, to redefining what the new best is. That's a lot of what we're about in terms of just making sure that for me personally, like I said before, it's working on the business rather than in the business, but also giving everyone the tools to be successful.
So for you personally, that's where I'm going to dive in. So for you personally, what did you learn about yourself?
Well, I would say when we were crazy busy, I didn't have a good balance, honestly. And my wife, Ann, who has her own business, probably would say the same. It's been different. It's been better. And learning how to create that balance and set your own priorities based on your personal values was really beneficial for me.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I'd say, I guess for me, I'm not normally a very patient person.
No.
You'll know only too well, right? COVID certainly tested the need to find some patience at times. I still only want to be so patient because I do believe in pushing the business and doing those things. But at the same time, there were definitely situations we ran into where you had to step back and say, you know what, today's an okay day. We just not worry about that because someone's dealing with a family member who's sick, or, and so allowing that. And frankly, I think that whole caring thing, I learned an appreciation for the team that I have here. I had some tough situations, lost my father early in the year, and watching the care of the people opened my heart, I guess, in a sense. As I saw a note that Matt put on the chat about that. I'm glad that my team maybe got to see more of that side of me. And so being willing, whether it's laughing at yourself or being open and sharing your care and concern for someone, was probably different this year. We weren't just running a business anymore. We were dealing with a lot of crisis and a lot of challenges. So that's probably where I come from.
Yeah, Matt says, I learned how big Karl's heart is. And I always knew how big Karl's heart is. And I know how hard you run, yet at the same time, you're such a great guy. And I'm glad you got to see that. Yeah. So,
tell that to Cecilia, she's on.
So I'm going to open up for last minute questions. And if there's anyone who has last minute questions, I'm going to throw this out to you all. So there are different people who are watching. People are watching on Facebook Live who will watch it later. And we have business owners. We have people who lead teams. We have individuals. We have people who are furloughed. what suggestions or advice could you give to them in regards to leading and moving forward in 2021?
I'll start. Plan to win. Build around the success, and frankly, refuse to lose and refuse to let all the hurdles and negatives of life take you down. I'm not going to look back on 2020 and say it's the worst year of my life, because it wasn't. It was a pretty darn good year overall. And 2021 is going to be a lot better. I get to work with a great group of people, and you know what? It's going to be a wonderful 2021. And I think if you go into it with that approach, the outcome, no matter what that is, will probably be it's going to certainly be better than assuming you're going to fail.
Love that. Plan to win.
Well, I agree with that, and I'll add on to that by saying, depending on your situation, you named a lot of different situations there, Mary, that people could be facing at this point in their life, whether they're furloughed, they've been let go, they're struggling to keep their business afloat, any number of things, is that keep in mind that this is temporary. Don't lose hope. Ask for advice. Find some people that you trust, that you can talk to share ideas and to get some encouragement. Certainly don't hang around people that are negative, because that'll just bring you down even further. And remain positive. There always is a light at the end of the tunnel. There's always ways to make things better. And if you make that a deliberate goal in your life, you will achieve it. And people just need to understand, and I think most people understand that if they're deliberate in their actions of making things better, they do get better.
I'll say stay the course. It is exhausting. It has taken its toll. We have a little more to go. Stay the course. Don't let your guard down. You deserve better than that. And your people deserve better than that. Don't let your guard down. And I love, and Karl said something earlier, and then just him again, it's be hopeful, realistic, but hopeful. When they feel that from you, when they see that from you, even if they walk out of Karl's office and go, he's crazy, this ain't gonna happen. They also, the next few steps will be, well, crap, I got to rise to that occasion. I don't want to let him down. I want to win. I want to prove myself. And I really believe if we put that up there, people want to rise to that occasion. They just need help doing it. Ask questions. Just have that dialogue. And then, someone said this to me the other day, as the leaders, specifically us, it's like the oxygen mask on the plane. We have to have our oxygen before we can give it to everybody else. So take care of yourself. Be aware of what you need, and don't hesitate to ask or lean in or step up or take the time you need so that you can be there for everybody else. Because to Sam's point, that's what you do as a leader, is you provide that guiding light, and you got to keep that light shining strong.
Yeah, that is so true. And I've noticed that, and I've seen that in other individuals too, that it's our job to lead by example. I don't care how bad a day you're having. You walk out of your office with a smile on your face, and you greet everybody, with all the enthusiasm that you can muster, because you're, as leaders and in any organization, we set the tone for the day, and that's so important.
I'm fortunate I say I work with wickedly brilliant people who on most days don't drive me crazy, but it probably goes both ways. But I really am honored to work with the team I get to work with. You also should share that with your team. Don't hesitate to let them know how valued they are, because they're super valued. And just a simple, some of them want it on a billboard, some of them want it in a text, some of them want it in a note or post it on their desk. Don't miss those opportunities, because they go a long way.
So I'm launching just the last poll just for feedback. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being here, for saying yes. I am just honored to know leaders like the three of you. And again, there's so many similarities. Just the tools, talking about leading by example goes right back into when Karl opened up, because you got to own it though when you make the mistake, right? And people want to know, they want more than ever to have authentic leaders who listen, who connect, who are willing to fight for them, who are willing to take the hill for them, to willing to admit. But they just, at the end of the day, people want to know that we care, that they know that they're heard, they're seen, and that they, that you care. And I can say that the three of you do. And again, I'm just so incredibly honored to have this time. Thank you for taking the time. I had one person. Oh, I have a last minute question. Of course, there's always a last minute. How does Bold change your approach to leadership?
I saw my friend Kirill sent that. Well, it starts with, I'm too old, Kirill, to have gone through Bold. So I went through the organization that Eric and Mary were with prior to, as Mary will know. But how has Bold changed my life? First off, it's gotten me exposed to Eric and Mary. And I think probably many of the people on this call know what I'm saying when I say this. And the thank you really comes from me to you, because frankly, I get more out of this session, Mary, than I get to give in many senses. Being exposed to, Sam said it before we came on the call. We were talking about leadership programs and that, and Sam said, not only do you teach it, you live it. And from my perspective, I love to go to a graduation. That's been one of the hardest things this past year with COVID and lack of classes. It's so fun to go watch my team go through the program and come out of it new and improved, frankly, and better for it. And so from where I sit, what Bold has done in my life is it's not only made me a better leader, it's got me to get to see so many amazing people and leaders across that. And the names on this call that I know that are there, Frank and Rusty, and I've just been exposed to great people. And that's what it's gotten me.
Well, I'm going to mirror that in that I went through the program with Eric and Mary at their former employer, and it was life-changing for me. My daughter went through the teen program, and that actually it was going on team with that teen program with my daughter back again, that led us to start the foundation that actually pays to send teens through this program. It was a life-changing, and I certainly have a lot of admiration, Mary, for you and Eric and your team that have the talent that can literally change people's lives. And it is, for those of you that say, ooh, it's too hard, or I'm not sure I want to go, anything good in life is hard. And you do your best learning when you're out of your comfort zone. I think of a movie that my wife and I joke about is 20 Seconds of Insane Courage will change your life.
We bought a zoo.
Exactly. And he says, and it has guided my life forever. And I totally agree with that statement. Sometimes you just got to have 20 seconds of insane courage. And it's those processes in Bold, in these intensive classes, where you get that 20 seconds of insane courage and you go out there and you give it everything you've got, and you have it. And it's a life changer. And so I can't say enough good things about it. Our organization is totally committed to Bold. I love the way that Eric and Mary train this with their firm. And we're really looking forward to them implementing this when they can again, because we've got a line of people stacked up to go to that class. So I can't say enough good things about it.
Well, I echo all that. Life-changing for me as well. What I always tell people is what happens in that 2.5, 3 days and then ongoing is that we ourselves have forgotten what our bold is, what kind of champion we are, what we bring to the table, and we push it down for whatever reasons. And what happens in bold is they remind us who we are and what we really can be. And that's what bold is for me, is that 20 seconds of courage comes from, oh, great, I got to step up here because I can't fail myself. And you got to just push yourself and do it. And it also, to Karl's point, a community around you that lives and breathes the same way you do. That 1% of people who truly are going to help you get to the next level and remind you when you fall a little bit that you can get back up again. That's what it's done for me.
Yeah. Mary, I'm going to add one thing to tag on to the last conversation. Was it was something I learned a long time ago, which helped me in keeping perspective on our staff and our associates and our employees is what was called, I don't know if you guys have heard this, the triple A's, is always giving them attention, affirmation, and appreciation. And I found that to be so appropriate, because even and what was interesting is that we were, from a recruiting perspective, and Tiffany, I'm sure you can appreciate this too, we found some of our best employees from companies that had a little different philosophy, and I got a little humor at it. It was get a grip, get a therapist, or get out. And we recruited some of our best employees from firms that had that philosophy, that wanted to get into a better culture.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's the grit you're looking for. And it takes grit to get through 2020 and to go into 2021 for sure.
So good. So good. So all it takes is 20 seconds of insane courage. Say yes. Keep that hope alive. Plan to win. And surround yourself with like-minded people who will feed your faith, not your fear. So have an amazing rest of your day and your week. And once again, thank you for being here. Thank you all for watching. And I am just humbled and honored. And thank you for your time.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye, everybody.